Eric Ulvog started Sewer Ninjas as a result of recognizing complementary work to closing real estate transactions.
Yeah, we can fix these without digging them up. And I'm like, how do you do that?
Several years later, Eric recognizes unlimited potential in relining all over Wisconsin and beyond. Listen in. Hey, Eric, thanks for joining us on the Cleaner Plumber podcast today. You've got an interesting background. I did a little bit of research, and it looks like you started your life as a real estate guy. And I think you're still in that arena. Is that accurate?
Yep. Yeah, it's totally accurate. Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you became the sewer ninja down by Milwaukee. That doesn't just come out of nowhere. How do you go from selling real estate, owning your own brokerage, to owning a drain cleaning company?
You know, if you're a good real estate agent, you're going to learn all about the housing market and all of the various things that affect the housing market. Because every time you represent a buyer, you're going to want to do three things. You're going to want to help them figure out how to buy that house from the owner, right? Number two, you're going to want to let them know what it's going to take to maintain the property in terms of its fair market value. So that's like the deferred maintenance budget. And then the third thing you want to do is talk to them about the blind spots in home ownership. So I kept looking at the blind spots in home ownership, and I developed this like really cool like sales pitch to the buyers. Like, this is why you want to use me. This is why the cool, friendly, nice, good-looking realtor around the corner is appealing, like completely untrustworthy, because they just don't think about all this stuff. And in like 2014, 2015, I was running the brokerage that I was at, and I was like, man, I'm going to get sued for like trees, right? Like gigantic trees in people's yards. So I started thinking about, like, how could I use my real estate reputation and rapport in the marketplace to like bolt on like a cut and go company or a tree removal company or a tree trimming company? Because like a roof costs 10 grand or 8 grand or $15,000, but nobody actually thinks about that gigantic tree in the backyard that costs potentially $8,000 to as much as $12,000, because it has to be a technical drop. You can't get a lift bucket back there, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm talking to the guys about the trees, and they're like, yeah, the roots on those really wreak havoc on the sewer pipes. I'm like, what? I knew about Roto-Rooter, but I didn't really think too much about it. And I met a plumber who was doing camera inspections on private sewer laterals. He would charge like $650, $700. I was like, holy cow. I'm like, can you give my real estate agents or my real estate buyers kind of a deal? So we do it like for $350. And we started sticking a camera down those lines. And as long as the pipe wasn't like separated or broken, I was cool. Like, I don't care how much roots were in there or not. And then one day he's like, we can fix these. I was like, without digging them up, I'm like, how do you do that?
So what year is this? Like 2015? Is that what you said?
2017, I met the plumber, and he was a good master plumber, 2-man, 3-man shop, loved doing service work and that kind of stuff. But he's like, yeah, we can fix these without digging them up. And I'm like, how do you do that? And one thing led to another, and the irony of it was, this is the great side hustle story. So my partner, Trevor, he was a real estate customer of mine. And during the Great Recession, I sold him like at least 6, maybe as many as 7 dumpy duplexes. I mean, these things were awful, absolutely awful. And, but he was a smart guy. He was buying them at the bottom, and then he was fixing them up bare minimally and then sticking tenants in there. Well, 3 of the duplexes, he had to replace the lateral open cut, no liners, right? And the last, he came to me in 2017, and he's like, dude, we should start a flipping company. I'm like, that's a bad idea. Have you ever flipped a house before? He's like, no. I'm like, it's horrible. I was like, why would anyone want to sell their home for cash? They can just hire me. I'll bring them more money as the realtor. And he's like, just think it through. So he gives us this business plan. I hadn't seen a business plan in years. It's like 2016, 2017. And me and my wife get out of the city for a while, and we go up to La Crosse. We're hanging out on the bluffs, and she's reading this, and she's like, we're doing this. And I'm like, no, we're not. I'm a cool realtor. I am not a flipper. Anyways, it's almost 100 some odd flips later. It's probably closer to 120 or some nonsense like that. But I came to him with this idea because he designs wastewater treatment plants for a living. He's a civil engineer. This cat is smart. He's nothing like me. Like I'm the boisterous, fun, energetic, whatever. He's quiet, reserves, tinkers. His mind's always thinking in ways in which I don't even understand. And I came to him with the lining thing, and I was like, look, we're making hand over fist money flipping houses, but I was like, there's no long-term marketplace for it that we can capitalize on, and there's no emerging market trends. It's just the same thing over and over again. I'm like, I think we should check out this lining business, and he's like, I don't see it, dude. And I was like, trust me, it's not here yet, at least in Milwaukee, but you need to like just do some research. So this is great. 2020 rolls around and he's starting to warm up to the idea. And he's like, how much money would it cost? And who would we partner with? And how would we mechanize it? And all the systems and that kind of stuff. And the last duplex I sold for him, the very last duplex I sold for him, the day prior to closing, the buyer, who was this radiologist, calls. And he accuses me and Trevor of lying to him about the condition of the property. Says, you never told me about the backups in the pipe. I can't believe this. I'm going to sue you guys. I'm not closing, blah, blah, the whole 9 yards. And so Trevor's great. He just drives over to the guy's house, knocks on his door, gets the real estate agents out of it. Cause there's nothing like real estate agents to mess up a deal. And he goes, what do you want? And he's like, man, I bought this house in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, and it cost me $32,000 to replace the sewer lateral, and I'm never doing that again. And you guys lied to me. And Trevor's like, it was just backups. That's all it was. He's like, what do you want? He's like, I want a liner.
So that doctor knew what a liner was?
Yeah, he totally knew what a sewer liner was. So we relined it for him. And at the closing table.
Well, you make that sound really easy. We relined it for him. So you hired a company you knew that did relining at that time.
Well, and that's this is great. I had to hire a team out of Minneapolis to drive to Milwaukee to reline the sewer.
So in 2017, nobody was doing relining in Milwaukee?
There was a couple of companies that were doing relining, but there was not a relining company. There were plumbing companies that had bolted on a lining division and picked up the equipment to do it. So
that's kind of the typical way it goes. You made a lot of interesting comments there. Realtors have a great perspective on all kinds of things. Well and septic. In your case, since you're more municipal, you've got your lateral lines hooked up to a city sewer and water. And the tree roots and just age, deterioration, things like that are all things that are going to make your real estate deal fail.
Right.
And so you realize, well, I've got a great opportunity here, whether it's to make sure my real estate doesn't fail because of a tree, in the yard or tree roots underground. And you've got this idea to start this lining business in 2017. But you also hit on something earlier, is you were hiring a TV inspection guy to come look at these lines for $300, $600, whatever it is. That's typically how the relining stuff starts, is an inspection guy realizes, why am I not fixing these in a non-intrusive way, especially in the cities? You got driveways, sidewalks, nice lawns, you name it. So you come up with this relining idea. You have to call somebody in from the Twin Cities. How do you go from, okay, we're going to just call someone to start a business doing this is the relining companies will train, but you got to go out and find the right guys.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, we mechanized it and we funded it. We had no clue what we were doing. And we just started we're going to start on a skeleton staff. We're just going to buy the equipment.
But did you find somebody who had a basic knowledge to at least?
No, we had to sell. Like, we went to our supplier and our manufacturer. It was during COVID, so they made us train in like a warehouse that I had.
Who did you choose to go with?
Originally, we were with Hammerhead, and we're still with Hammerhead today.
And Hammerhead is actually local to you because you're in Wisconsin.
Yeah, we actually went on a nationwide search because Trevor is a scientist by nature. You don't become a civil engineer unless you ask dozens upon dozens of questions. And so we went out, we started researching all of the various companies that were in the lining business and what systems they were running and where they were running them was important, because the system in Texas is going to run differently from a system in Detroit or Minneapolis, just because of the way in which the pipes are laid and the type of pipe that they used. And then at the last moment, he's like, there's this company down the road from us that does lining, and we asked the guy to come over, and they shot a couple of lines for us as some practice runs that I sold, and and then I was like, all right, well, let's mechanize it. And so the first year, it's me and the truck full time, and then 2 subcontractors that just showed up. So I had to schedule lines around the plumber's schedule and this other guy, the Ninja #1, which is Mohawk Jeff. Whenever he was off, that's when we shot lines. So he would be like, I have these days off, Eric. I was like, okay. So we did like 30 jobs in the first year.
To me, it's even more ironic that you're using Hammerhead, who is basically, let's call it a Milwaukee-based company, and there was still no relining company. You find Mohawk Jeff to kind of do the initial work for you on his schedule. At what point does it turn into something full-time versus just Mohawk Jeff doing what he can whenever it works?
At the end of that year, I made a promise to Jeff that if he left his current job, and that was always the intent. When we got into the year, like as we started picking up momentum, and every single day off that he was shooting a line with me. I'm like, all right, I think I can hire you, and you're going to be full-time guy #1. And
you say shooting a line with me. How are you still selling real estate and doing this? You're just doing it.
This is my 28th year of selling real estate. This is my 5th year of running Sewer Ninjas. So by the time the last year that I did real estate full time and there was no ninjas, like I did something absurd, like in the upper 1% of 1/10 of all real estate agents. But the problem was I worked 320 days that year. So I'm like, great, I got all this money as a realtor, and I'm really well known, and people like me, and they hire me nonstop. But like I have no days off. I can't go to my kids' stuff and that kind of stuff. I'm going to slowly do whatever it takes to open up this lining business so I can have my nights and my weekends back. And so I didn't care at all about working, like, when people say working 60, 70 hours a week, I was like, yeah, I was literally working 60 to 70 hours a week because we didn't make any money at Sewer Ninjas for the first, the first year we broke even, and the second year we made money. But you take your profits and reinvest back into
roll it all right back in, exactly.
Facilities, So
I think a lot of startup plumbers and drain guys too, though, would also say that the schedule isn't any different than your real estate schedule until you can get big enough to get some people under you and actually be the manager instead of the owner operator. Yeah,
being an owner operator of anything is hell on wheels. It is hard work, Jeff. I'm like, when I see guys being an owner operator, they either absolutely love the work and they don't want to let it go, or they got to figure out a way to scale it correctly so they can, like, literally the best piece of business advice I ever got was, you want to hire people to do work that you otherwise could do because it blesses them. Like, they're looking for that work, and you have that work available to them, and you can pay them a fair, if not a better than fair wage to go and do it. So my thinking over the years, even when I started my own real estate company, because I left the previous brokerage that I was at, and then I just started a real estate company off my kitchen table, I was like, I'm going to employ real estate agents to do work that I could otherwise do because we're better than almost everybody else doing it, and I want them to be good at it, and I want to pay them for doing it. Because your average agent's doing what, 9 to 12 deals a year. We were doing 80, 90 a year, but you have to have a team to do that kind of stuff.
So your real estate background translated into Sewer Ninjas a lot more probably than you expected, or were you expecting that?
I thought it was going to be apples and oranges. So it was all in the homeowner space, right? So that's where you get the fruit from. But an apple has nothing in common with an orange. But it ended up being the same conversation. Hey, how long have you lived at this address? What are you trying to accomplish? Do you intend on keeping this house for a long time? How did you happen to find the lining business? Are you sure you need CIPP installed? Or
when you guys come in so blind to something like this, how are you even determining like your pricing structure and stuff like that? Does Hammerhead help you with that? Or are you analyzing nearby? Hammerhead helps?
Hammerhead helped set like some pricing structures on it, and they're like, here's what other guys around the country are charging. So like, we just got off the phone with another lining company out of Indiana, or no, Ohio. And we're like, hey, what are you guys doing? What are you using? So forth and so on. So there's the one cool thing about the real estate business was that real estate agents like to network with one another about what's working, what's not working, and why are you doing what you're doing. The lining business, unlike the competitive plumbing business, is very much like that as well. Liner guys are like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? What's working? I mean, like, there's 5 other lining rigs in my town now, and I can call them up, and at least 3 or 4 of them will pick up the phone, and we can collaborate on,
Is that because there's such a big pie? Let's call it a pie. There's so much work right now. There's this massive pie. There's plenty of pie for everybody to eat.
Yeah, right.
Is that maybe why the competition is so friendly at this point? And as more people recognize that there's opportunity there, might that change?
I think it will. The only problem is once you scale it, and this is what I said at the wet show, like within 50 miles of where I'm sitting talking to you, there is $3.2 billion worth of private property relining. It's virtually impossible for us. I mean, I could have 20 sewer ninja operations, doing 5 million a year, or 20 teams doing 5, and it won't even put a dent in it. And that's pre-1965. Like, that doesn't even account for the volume of pipe that was laid post-1965.
Was that your strategy, is to expand into more and more like markets, or are you already hitting that 20-mile radius?
We're hitting a 50-mile radius easily. There's nobody in Madison, Wisconsin. There's one team out of Wisconsin Rapids that runs the same system that we run, and once in a while we bump into them and chuckle to one another. But outside of that, I mean, it's open season.
There's a couple of things here that are in the back of my head rattling around. Number one, I didn't have a good intro to just bring this up, but your branding and marketing is, in my opinion, really cool for this industry. How did you come up with that? And it would also be real easy to, I don't want to say franchise, but just expand. And especially the way you reference your guys as ninjas, or your workers as ninjas. What is the strategy there for?
So it's actually it's reverse engineered from the real estate market, right? So the real estate market is all personality driven. So it's like, if you Google Eric Ovog and you go into real estate agent, you'll see it's my face. I don't have a mustache. I'm like, all my listings, it's very personality driven, very relationally oriented. And then even our flipping company, which is called Wisconsin Home Guys, which the doors are open, but we're not doing any flips anymore. That was personality driven, because people want to like you and they want to trust you if they're going to do a real estate deal with you. The problem for that model is I think in the contracting space, I think a lot of contractors are very proud of what they've accomplished and would like to have a little personal notoriety. We didn't want any personal notoriety at all. Trevor and I didn't want it. We wanted the kind of like the company's emblematic spirit to be indicative of the type of work that we intended to do for the consumer. And so Trevor's brainiac, I would have named the company something goofy or, whatever. He had a list of like 100 names. He sent it out to a focus group. The focus group narrowed it down to like 20 or 30. We then gave it to like 25 of our closest friends. They narrowed it down to 3. We then gave the 3 names to a graphics designer and said, can you figure out a logo? And then we put the logos onto the names, and they picked Sewer Ninjas. And I was like, okay, it's kind of goofy the way that the genesis of it is never, you don't start thinking, yeah, I'm going to have this great concept, which is the ninja. We ninja these lines right on the city main. We're like ninjas. We get in, we get out in under 4 hours. We're gonna have to worry about it for 50 years, or whatever it is. I mean, we just got kind of lucky, and now we're doing the coolest things. We're bringing the ninja to life this year. He's going to be like a superhero in the marketplace. So I think you could do this anywhere, and people have asked.
Well, it does seem very scalable. That's why I brought it up. I think you set yourself up really wisely for acquisition. I don't know what your end game is, but because you could have Sewer Ninjas Tallahassee, Sewer Ninjas Dallas, Sewer Ninjas Orlando,
Yeah, if you if you build it so it's profitable, then you always have the option of selling it, or you can just keep it and keep running it, and take the money at the end of the year. I think the most difficult thing for the lining guys is as I talk to these guys all over the country, it's like, do you want to have a nice life and maybe do $1 million to $2 million a year in scalable lining, or do you want to have a 3-ring circus and massive growth because the market's available? You can grow all day long, and do you want to get up to like 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 lining rigs and just meet the market demands, because the market demands are there. So if the current lining companies don't meet the market demands, more guys will come into the marketplace, and it's just a personal preference.
What is the barrier to entry here for more guys? So it's not like being a septic pumper or a septic system installer or a wastewater treatment guy. You don't need to have a license, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So is the barrier to entry really just the startup capital to get your equipment?
Startup capital and the willingness to make a lot of mistakes in the early days. You know what I mean? Too short, too long, wrong liner, didn't operate the equipment correctly. And then just knowing that, well, if mainline has been going on for like 25 to 30 years previous to private property, then the issue simply becomes, we can do this. We just have to like let ourselves off the hook, because the first 100 lines are your training ground, and then the next,
you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So when did you? So you haven't even been doing this 10 years yet.
No. Mm-mm.
How do you feel like you do thoroughly understand? How long did it take you before you were comfortable?
It was middle of last year. We really
that wasn't the answer I expected, so I'm glad I asked.
Yeah. So three and a half years into it, I was like, okay, I'm good. Like, the best lining guys are guys that should have been mechanics, guys that should have been dentists, or dudes that should have been electricians. But for whatever reason, they found themselves in some other job doing whatever. And now they're like, they're stuck in an office or stuck in a desk, and they're like, I want to get out and like see the world, meet some people, and do something that actually matters. I mean, like we were talking with those guys at Hammerhead, and I think it's true for us. We're going on a little marketing campaign, but it's like Wisconsin companies rebuilding Wisconsin's infrastructure, sewer ninjas. You know what I mean? Powered by Hammerhead, and it's just a simple way to connect with the consumer. We're like, hey, we're here for you. Like, reline it before it falls apart.
What do you see? How do you see yourself growing over the next few years? Just keep grabbing more of this market, or are there other things you want to dive into, meaning related to sewer ninjas? Not,
I think that NASCO has the perfect template for growth in terms of what they're providing from an educational standpoint, and then also from an industry, kind of like we're pseudo regulating ourselves. So NASCO is interesting because it's just like the realtor community, right? You don't like, everyone thinks you're just a realtor because you have a real estate license, but you're actually not. You have to buy your realtor board dues every single year, and that makes you a realtor, and that gives you access to MLS. And so, very similar, I see the lining business moving in a similar direction. Like, the NASCO will become the equivalent of the Realtor Association. NASCO will be like the board for lining companies across America, and they will help set code and standards and processes that help build confidence in the private consuming market, and then also the municipal market that's requiring the private consuming market to upgrade these lines.
Well, that's what a good association should be doing, setting the standards and guidelines for those types of things, right, or getting that stuff even into legislation sometimes. Right. A lot of associations, both in and outside of wastewater, have kind of strayed into being almost more profitable type corporations, but I don't want to go down that road. I 100% agree with you that NASCO is a very, very good association, especially from the training standpoint. So I think it's really cool that you brought that up, because I I feel the same way you do about NASCO.
Well, and it's totally like, I just give you, like, you're talking about bolt-ons, right? Like maybe Sewer Ninjas never leaves 2 hours from my location, right? Maybe there's never a Sewer Ninja pod / lining rig that's further than 2 hours out. I don't expand it at all. We just got like a plethora of requests to do manhole inspections, and the manhole inspections have to be done by a NASCO certified tier 1, blah, blah, blah. And the civil engineer for the community that sent out these notices to all these commercial properties that have their private manholes is told them you have to be NASCO certified. Well, there's like 3 guys in my marketplace who are NASCO certified, and the other 2 guys are too busy running their huge plumbing companies to even bother doing a $550 to $850 manhole inspection. So like there's who knows how much available profitability is coming to us through NASCO just quietly making the civil engineers aware of infrastructure, processes, procedures, and available products and repairs that we don't know about, so that's what I'm really excited about just doing different things. The other thing I'm going after, Jeff, is I'm going after the insurance companies. I don't think under any circumstance should a large insurance company ever sell sewer backup insurance without getting a sewer lateral inspection. I mean, why would you do that? Guy's got, he's got a 100-year-old house and an
because they don't know.
Right. Well, yeah, an $85,000 rec room in a 100-year-old house, and he's got clay tile. I'm like, well, why don't you just sign up for a backup? I mean,
that's the definition of disaster waiting to happen.
Right. But every single day, the insurance company pays out huge amounts of claims for sewer backup, but they don't require a camera evaluation. I'm like, well, so there's a lot of profit. There's a lot of services that will be required relatively soon. I think when I say relatively soon, I'm thinking 10 years down the road.
Speaking of 10 years down the road, do you still see yourself doing this, or do you think, are you building this for acquisition, or are you building this for succession?
I'm building it for succession. I think Trevor's building it for acquisition. So it's a perfect mix, right?
Well, that means he has to buy it from you. So it worked.
No, I'd have to buy it. He wants to sell it. And
you have to buy it from him. Yeah, I was backwards.
Right. But if we build it right, then it will be run right. And then the question is do we want to keep it, or do you want to cash out? And there's so much opportunity. It would seem almost foolish to cash out early. And then at the same time, people get tired. I mean, I'm only 53. And in fact, today is my birthday. So April 23rd. And so I believe in my heart of hearts that I could do this successfully for like another 17 years. The best thing is I got a retirement plan in Trevor because he's 10 years my junior. So he's stuck, so if he wants to rock and roll until he's 60, like we're in a good
until he's 53.
Yeah, until he's 53. Right. So, but we'll see what it looks like.
Learn more about Eric and his relining company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at sewerninjas.com. Please remember to like and subscribe to keep more great content coming.